Good morning, everyone. As you start coming on in here, welcome on Substack, on Twitch, on Kick, on TikTok, maybe. We might actually be on TikTok. We'll see. Good morning, everyone. Welcome as you start coming on in. Smash the heart if you're on Substack. Join us in this conversation. I'm Nick Paro. Oh, I changed my title too, and that's wrong. I'm Nick Paro, not your dad, here on Sick of the Shit Publications with comedian and friend, soon to be friend here, and recommendation by Tara Devlin, a joint and a mutual friend of both of ours, Ron Placone, and I am fuck. I think I said it wrong.
No, you did it right.
Did I do it right?
Placone,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm doubting myself when I said it.
No,
Ron and
no
I are
gimmicks.
really just meeting. So,
Yeah.
Ron, can you introduce yourself to me, to everybody in the audience today?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm excited for this discussion today as we have an intelligent masculinity, better humaning conversation.
Yeah. Well, it's good to meet you, Nick. And yeah, it is just Ron Placone. I mean, the technical Italian pronunciation is Placone, but in English it's just Placone. You keep it simple. So yeah, I am a comedian. I am a filmmaker. I am a podcaster. I am a cat dad. I am a husband. I am I'm a stuff enthusiast. I like punk rock. I like soccer. I like hockey. I'm a pretty big leftist and unapologetically so. And yeah, I have a movie out called Left at Wall. It's an anti-capitalist comedy that calls out the Wall Street machine. You can watch it now on a bunch of platforms. I recommend Tubi or YouTube because it's free there. And we also have a trivia contest going on where you can win a free t-shirt. So check out my movie Left at Wall. I'm getting ready to do the Edinburgh Fringe Festival with my new stand-up show, Anti-Fascist Pasta Night. My podcast is called 1000 with Ron Placone, where I go on a quest to interview 1,000 different people that are doing interesting, creative things despite a society in decline. And I think that's kind of a pretty big gamut there. I know I got plugs in too, but it's like, well, they're relevant to like what I'm doing right now. So
yes, anti-fascist pasta night. Let's talk about that because
Sure.
that sounds fun. So you said that's a book club you're doing.
It's a stand-up show I'm doing.
Stand-up show. Sorry.
Yeah. Could be a book club in the future.
Why the name? It would be a great book club. Like anti-fascist pasta night is just go bring pasta to a friend's house and make like different pastas and read anti-fascist books.
Maybe that'll be in the future. I mean, so the title, anti-fascist pasta nights are a thing in Italy. They've existed since post Mussolini because Mussolini wanted to take pasta away from the Italian people. Like he tried to take pasta away. And then he took
pasta away from Italians.
It didn't go so well at the end. It didn't go so great for that guy. But yeah, he took pasta away, and then he took coffee away. And then they said, "We're going to kill you now." And he did other terrible things too. He did, but trying to just stick it to food to keep it simple. Pasta and coffee were the big food things that got him in a lot of trouble. So anti-fascist pasta nights have existed since the fall of Mussolini, kind of as a reminder that fascism is really bad and to gather around a very celebrated and justifiably so, I'm a big pasta fan, a very celebrated food. So I thought it would be a fun title for a stand-up show, especially a political one that really calls out fascism in the United States and around the world. And there's also another component that kind of came up very organically and started framing itself. And that is that, I'm an Italian American myself, and that is commonly associated with a more right-wing reactionary politics, thanks to the Rudy Giuliani's of the world and the Pam Bondis of the world and stuff like that. Yet throughout history, there's always been a very sharp reaction to all that, like a lot of the union efforts. Italian immigrants had a lot to do with that. There's a rich labor history amidst Italian Americans. There's a lot of anarchists thinking history amidst Italian Americans. We have had not we, I mean, I wasn't around, but there have been anti-Columbus Day protests led by Italian Americans since the 1930s. So there's always been like a big reaction to this. And for the first time in my lifetime, there's groups that are speaking out about this and are trying to say like, hey, we're not a monolith. And I do believe, like in the bigger picture, that reclaiming our radical history is really important in the moment that we're living through. So I want to do my part. So there's a little bit of that personal component to Anti-Fascist Pasta Night too. So it's a really fun stand-up show. I'm really really proud of it. I'm interested to see what they think about it over in Europe, and yeah, so that's what's on the horizon for me. And then in the future, I'd love to look into other morphings of it. I don't, it's a little early here on the West Coast. I don't know if I'm framing that way, but like maybe a book club is a possibility. I've looked into like a couple like TV show possibilities or YouTube show possibilities. And then of course I'm going to continue it as a stand-up show. It's not just going to be at Edinburgh. I want to take it to other festivals for at least through 2027, maybe even more. So
That's awesome. You touched on some really cool stuff in all of that. And I want to go through some of like because I do a lot of work on disability rights and freedoms right now. We're spearheading a campaign. I say me and with Sick of This Shit Publications and Disability Community for Democracy are spearheading a campaign to say no to Crip Crow because they're trying to take away disability rights. And you touched on this idea of not a monolith. And like there's so many ways we get around and towards activism or not towards activism. And we always see like the history of Italy in the US or the history of Italians as, like you said, a little bit more radical, right-leaning. We do it with Cuban Americans. We do it now with Jewish Americans. We do it with Black Americans. How do you see what you're doing work into the racial history and components of like what's going on right now in the US? And how are you trying to bring that to light in any way with this type of series to break down those monolithic structures and say maybe even we're Americans, we're different now, like this is who we are, our resistance history, because you were talking about that monolith and the resistance history or the resilience history. And I just met Tad Stormer the other week, who wrote the resistance history of the United States, which is a great book on resilience and resistance. And can you expand on like how this sort of ties in with what's going on right now and why you're doing this type of comedy right now?
Yeah. So a couple components. First of all, as far as like the race element of it, in the show, I call out ICE and I call out like a lot of those injustices. Bringing it into the Italian American thing, it is a stand-up show, so I don't like take this deep dive into history, obviously, but I do have like some historical stuff in punchline form, where people have come away from it going like, I actually learned a lot from this show, which is really cool. I embrace that. I mean, I feel like you should, if you're going to call a show Anti-Fascist Pasta Night, I feel like you should deliver a little bit of that, right? So, but a lot of the reasons for the whole like we call it macaroni now, the whole macaroni sect of being Italian American, like the right wing part, a lot of that can be traced back to racism. Like they brought racism into it because what they did, and by they I mean just the powers that be over the years, is they wanted, during the time of Mussolini, they wanted Italian Americans to be American, right? Like you're fighting on the American side, but they also wanted them to kind of have this connection to the homeland as well. So they kind of played on the reactionary side of people, and we're like, okay, you're not these wasps over here. You're not them. You're a bit of an other. You come from Italy, but you're not brown though. You're not brown. You're kind of in between. You're this sort of other. And oh man, we need a figurehead for you. This Christopher Columbus guy. he's the guy. Apparently he did some bad things, but we're just going to pretend that didn't happen, and we're going to make these false points of association over the course of hundreds of years. And so there is a racial component, and it came up again and again throughout history. I mean, during the civil rights movement, there was this effort for Italian Americans to feel like they were left out, which is absolutely ridiculous. Actually, the truth of the matter is Italian Americans have received reparations. When the lynching happened in Louisiana, reparations were paid for that. So, if anything, the conversation should be the other way, where it's just like, well, if Italian people got reparations, why shouldn't other people get them as well? So yeah, I mean, there is that side of it, and I think when you're breaking that down, um, you're really saying that no, that is not who we are. And if you go over to Italy, especially these days, you will see a very, very sharp reaction to the fascist prime minister Giorgia Meloni. In fact, they've been diminishing their power more and more each day. They had general strike after general strike in support of Palestine. So yeah, Italy as a place right now, I think is being very, very loud. And I feel like, to get into the second part of what you asked me, like why now, I think there is this sort of international diaspora going on, not just amidst Italian Americans, but just amidst everybody in the world, where we're kind of seeing, fascism is not a problem that stays at the U.S. borders. I would argue we're the capital right now, but it's not something that just stays at the U.S. borders. It is a worldwide problem, and you're seeing these things. And of course, these aren't the things that you'll see on the corporate media, but you're seeing things like in all throughout the UK and Ireland and parts of Italy, where the fascists showed up and wanted to have a big day of visibility, and they were chased out in city after city. I mean, they were chased out in Brighton, they were chased out in Birmingham, they were chased out in Liverpool, they were chased out in Belfast in Ireland, Rome in Italy. The most popular personality in Italy right now is an unapologetic anti-fascist left-wing comic book artist named Zero Calcare, who just released his third series on Netflix. So I feel like there is a big reaction going on in the world right now to what's happening. I mean, even in as of the recording of it, well, I guess we're live, so I don't need to have that as of the recording of this disclaimer, do I? But the World Cup is, I would say, maybe more political than it has been in recent years. People are, calling out players who are having golf trips with Trump. They're calling out, right-wing regimes and what have, and rooting accordingly. I was of the belief, and I've written about it. I said, look, in times like these, the United States needs to lose. I felt that way before Trump put his thumb on the scale. Once Trump put his thumb on the scale, then all bets were off. It's like they need to lose. Like there's no, they need to lose. They deserve to lose. There was kind of a political element when Belgium beat the pants off of them, and I was thrilled to see it. I've actually never taken more joy in watching a sports team lose, and I feel bad because for a lot of those athletes, it's not their fault, but
Yeah.
but it's more like what it says to the world, whether you like it or not. The World Cup does have a place on the world stage. World is in the name. And yeah, in times like these, the fascists need to lose, even if they're just people that have nothing to do with it, but they're playing for, a fascist country. So I was thrilled when they lost. The fact that Belgium mocked Trump at the end was a perfect chef's kiss. I even had friends over in Belgium messaging me going, "You're welcome," because they knew who I was rooting for.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also the irony about all that, for anyone who's not in the know, the player that Trump put his thumb on the scale for to call off that red card, despite Trump not knowing what a red card was or when it should be called, but he knew that it was unfair. That player was born in the U.S., spent most of their childhood in London. So Trump simultaneously, put his thumb on the scale so that person could play soccer, while also trying to pass legislation so that in the future, a person like that wouldn't be able to be a U.S. citizen. So it's just chef's kiss irony all around.
Yeah, there was a lot of irony in everything that happened, and it was the worst game that the men's team had played during the entire World Cup, which I'm glad of. Like, they had played really, really, really well up until that point. And I'm a huge soccer fan. Like, I grew up playing soccer. I got to see a US men's versus Jamaica men's qualifying game one year when I was younger. Like, it's I love soccer, and it was
Yeah, I
hard
do
to
too.
watch the US men's this year, because I really wanted them to do well. Like,
Sure.
as a soccer fan, I want them to do really well. And as a fan of, like, the men's team finally being good, like,
Yeah.
the women's team are great. The
Right.
women's team have kicked ass, and this would be a very different conversation if it was the women's team, I think, because the women's team have always stood up to the politics very openly, where our
I agree.
men's team doesn't. Um,
I agree.
and I think that might be, like, I'd love your thoughts on that, actually, is like, had this been the women's team, had this been the women's World Cup, do you think we'd be having a much different conversation around the soccer tournament and how the teams are either standing up or not standing up against their governments? Because the women's team come out with pride every time, every year, pride in themselves, and just pride all around. But the men's team are just very quiet about it.
Yes.
And so I'd love your thoughts there,
No, I
especially with this
completely agree.
political environment.
Yes. No, I completely agree. I know that in the prior answer, I was kind of speaking very definitively, but I guess one thing that we always need to highlight is context is everything, and that's always applicable. So yes, 100% agree. When it is a team that is blatantly outspoken, as the women have been over the years, completely different. Yeah, completely different. And I share your love for soccer. I mean, I didn't play it. I mean, I played it when I was younger. I didn't keep up with it. I wish I would have, but I do love the game, and I like teams that are outspoken. I my favorite team domestically in the U.S. is a USL team called the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Pittsburgh's my hometown, and
I
they
went to school
are.
in Pittsburgh.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah, I
cool.
went to Carnegie Mellon.
My dad was a professor there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my dad was a professor there and until he retired recently. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I went
yeah.
to the School of Music. I did music theory and composition years back.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, he was in the business school. He taught he was an English guy, but he taught business communication, and he mostly taught graduate students. But
I bet
but
I
yeah,
bet I have some friends who had your dad as a professor.
that's so funny.
That would be funny.
What a small world. But yeah, so I like the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and they are an unapologetically socially progressive team. I mean, they have the rainbow flags all over their fan section. They have a big banner that says "Love Pittsburgh, Hate Racism" at every single game. That's like the biggest banner that the fan base flies. The fan base and the team has been outspoken against some of the issues of the league itself and the way they're kind of mistreating the players. So you love to see it, and so I love stuff like that. And I'm a big Livorno fan. I mean, that's a big leftist team. Then my family team is Forza Napoli, which is not a super political team, but they're definitely if anything they'd be center left. If anything, and they've also been a very outspoken anti-racist team. When there was I remember when those black players missed those. I think it was like they missed those penalty kicks, and there was like some racist feedback. The Forza Napoli fans were among the first to really speak out against that and to say, that's not who we are. So yeah, I'm with you. Big soccer fan, and yeah, if it was the women's team, totally different. I will be, I will and have always been, like rooting for the women's team. But when it's the men's team who is silent, or it's when it's a men's hockey team that openly celebrates with people like Cash Patel, I was rooting for Canada. you know.
Hmm.
So context is everything. You know, but yeah, I when it is justified, I am certainly rooting against the United States.
In your thoughts here, because this is a conversation not just about masculinity, but about better humaning in general. But right now, it's still framed on the masculinity side. Is especially with what's going on in the world and how men are not stepping up when they're in positions like this. Like it's not even a question in my mind that the women's team would have been as outspoken as fuck during the World Cup had it been them playing right now. And you bring up a good point with the men's hockey team. And in your thoughts, why are they so quiet? Like, why are they so, it feels like cowardice in my eyes. Like,
Yeah.
why do you think they're just either so quiet or they come out afterwards and be like, oh, well, a couple of us disagreed, but we couldn't say anything? Yeah, you fucking could have said something in the moment. You could have told Cash Patel to go away. The women's team would have done it. Like,
Well, I think if we're being totally honest, you know, women have it a lot harder in the United States, well, anywhere, but in the United States. And so I think it's a lot harder to ignore things when it affects you personally every day. You know, so I think that's just that's part of it right there. Is the reality that, you know, women are still marginalized in society. That's just the reality of the world we're living in. And I think also when you're generally, you know, women are kind of, you know, told to be more meek and less outspoken. So I think that when you reach a position of influence, i.e., a professional athlete or something like that, I would imagine it's pretty tempting to say, "Hey, f all that, I broke the ceiling," you know. So I
well, I
think that's
asked
part of it.
too is I'm going to cut in here is I asked because you're a comedian and you're standing up and you're saying things like you are in a position openly doing shows,
Hmm.
knowing that with the because you understand and know history, you can speak very clearly on it at the moment too. Is like you go out and put yourself on the line. In
Hmm.
fascism, some of the first people that are attacked are comedians because God forbid you make fun of the leader and make them look small or make the system look small or make them look incompetent and weak and all of the things is we've been men have been asked and asked and asked and asked and told this is what we need to do, this is how you show yourself as a good advocate and an ally. You're doing it, others are doing it, we have veterans out here doing it, I have friends who are standing out here and trying to do it. Why can't this athletes who like, and I know I'm asking you this question and you're not the athlete, but like you're in a position too of public visibility. You stand on stage and just can openly mock people. And I know it's your job at times to make light. I mean, it's your job to make light in dark situations. Is you have the confidence to do it. You have the as we say, well, you have the confidence to do it. You've stepped up. What does it mean to you to do that? Like, why do you do that? And instead of talking about the men who don't, why do you do it? Why do you stand up personally? Like, why do you think this is what you should be doing right now?
Well, it's just kind of always been a big part of who I am. You know, a question that I've gotten a lot over the years that anybody who addresses, you know, heavier topics gets is just like, oh, well, when did you start being political in your comedy? And the truth for me is like, well, I always have been because I was political before I started comedy, you know, like I basically got radicalized seeing what was going on with the Iraq War, and that sort of jolted me awake. And I started reading and learning and realized that there's a lot of problems in the world, and the United States is actually responsible for a lot of those problems. So I started asking more critical questions and learning more and more, just about empire and about exploitation and about capitalism. And so I've always kind of been that guy, and I was that guy before I went to my first open mic. I've gotten better at packaging it, and when I first started out, I kind of thought like, oh man, this is a hard hitting political insight. George Bush talks funny and messes up his words. I'm a genius. So the thoughts were there, but I didn't know how to quite deliver it in a punchline form. So I've definitely honed it more and more over the years and continue to. But it's just always been part of who I am. And right now, if you are not speaking out right now, you are never going to. So as far as the people who aren't and who don't, that is just not who they are. And if you want to bring masculinity into this, I do think that on the toxic side of masculinity, there's an encouraging element of apathy, of, well, if it doesn't affect me, I'm just not gonna, I don't care, like why should I care? Like, oh, the cops are just out there to serve and protect, just do what you're told, you'll be fine. ICE is just out there to make sure these people who aren't here legally go away. What's your problem? Everything's fine in my gated community, or everything's fine, from where I'm sitting. So stop belly aching. You sound like a wuss. You're just belly aching. Capitalism's fine for me because I have a trust fund, and I got a job at my dad's law firm and worked really hard. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big part of it. And if you want to bring comedy into this, look, I could probably double my salary in a couple weeks if I made a why I left the left lit video and started doing a bunch of like right wing podcasting and went over to the Rogan sphere. There's a lot of money in that. And a lot of comics have realized that. And I don't know how many of them actually believe a lot of the stuff they say. I'm sure some do. But I think for many, it was just a very, very ideal lane. And there are contemporaries in my industry, or whatever you want to call it, who have literally helped the fascist. They helped normalize RFK. They helped get Trump back into office. And I mean, the sad part, Nick, is there's actually a rich history of that in stand-up comedy. This podcast, Behind the Bastards, did a big series on the history of fascism in stand-up comedy, and it's actually been there for a really, really long time. One of the pioneers of what became known as stand-up comedy as we know it was a fascist. Was a legit card-carrying fascist. So there's a dark history there, and there's always been a reaction to that. And I'm part of the reaction, and I'm glad I am. I would never want to be anything else.
But I'm learning so much today. Like, just, this is so fun for me to get to hear all of this and learn about you and learn why you're doing this. And I love the rich history behind all of this. I've seen those comedians go over. Like, I think I know some of who you're speaking about specific or loosely, but I know like the comedic machine changed. And it, like, the men's comedy is pretty gross in a lot of areas. And like, how are you trying to reach audiences like that, like, without going into the sphere of the toxicity that they use? Are you reaching these types of audiences that are like on the Rogan side and that ugly manosphere side? How are you breaking into that to try and bring people back? Because for me, like, this whole thing isn't, we can't push everybody away. Like, yes,
Sure.
they're fascists. they're fascists. But how do you stop fascism? Because fascism is a cult. And how do you break a cult? Which is you bring people back in, you
Right.
unbrainwash them, you break them from the brainwashing. Are you reaching the folks on the Rogan side and helping? Because comedy does change culture. You hit that nail on the head. Is like comedy or culture is upwind of politics. And if you can get people in the cultural side to say all the things, people just sort of believe it eventually, like, or it becomes part of the narrative. Are you seeing them come back? Are you seeing people break from that manosphere, and turn to a better version of a manosphere?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Well to start with the first part, look, I mean, when I just play a random comedy club and I'm just one comic on a showcase, there's all kinds of people in that audience, and I'd imagine that some of them are Rogan Sphere people. You know what I mean? Like, I'd imagine, just because that's really really popular. So my guess is that sure, I play for those audiences all the time. And what's the old cliche? Against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand, or whatever it is. So I think that if you make people laugh, and if you entertain them, there's something to be said for that. Where it's like all of a sudden, all of a sudden you've broken down this barrier a little bit, and then you can maybe have a conversation after, and like, kind of, I mean, a lot of people, they just kind of enjoy comedy, and it's not like they have this card on them that it's like, I am part of the Rogan sphere, so I will never listen to anything from Mark Maron. A lot of people are just, I think, more casual about it than that, and that's fine. And I think that, yeah, you can totally reach those people, and the way you reach them is just, hopefully they really like what you do, and they connect with it. I think that any quote unquote normie can watch my movie Left at Wall, and I think be entertained by it, and find it funny. And there's funny moments in that movie, and it's a comedy. But there's also this deeper layer to it, where it's really, calling out capitalism and calling out Wall Street specifically. Um, a lot of people do connect with that deeper layer. Some people, they appreciate it because of that deeper layer. I'd like to think that there are some others who, maybe start Googling some stuff after they watch that movie. I really hope so. And over the years, I will tell you that my favorite email, not my favorite, but like an email that I will never get tired of getting, is when people say stuff like, I used to think this, and then I started listening to you, or like a podcast you're a part of, and I feel differently now. You've changed my mind, or like, I used to feel this way about this one issue, and you've kind of convinced me to look at it another way. um those are my favorite types of feedback. I really like that. I even like it more so than somebody who's like, "Oh man, your message is great," and I mean, that's awesome. Don't get me wrong, but there's something really special when you can kind of use your creative output to flip somebody. It's
Yeah,
because yeah, I mean, we need more of us. We really
yeah,
do.
yeah. There's a million voices out here for a million different issues. Like, there's room for all of us to be a part of this. Um, and that was sort of one of my original missions with, like, Sick of the Shit publication side, is to encourage more men, especially, to be loud and proud and break down the manosphere, because it's toxic as fuck, and I think it's ugly. Um, and how do we draw people into this space? And for us here, it's a lot of creativity in artwork, and I think we can be funny here. I think we put in some good comedy. We say some lewd stuff sometimes about Stephen Miller, because he looks like a giant penis that walks around, and he's this megalomaniac, but that's just him. And we try and challenge the face of manhood, and like what it looks like or means to be a man in this society, and just in general, because the patriarchy sucks. Like, this whole system that we're in is doesn't seem to work for anyone. You've touched on it a lot. Is the US exports fascism. That's our like primary export, and has been for a very long time, since like slavery. We've exported fascistic ideas to other people. That's where the Nazis learned from. And so we are continually challenging this model of masculinity here. Is Are you seeing a concerted effort from other comedians, with yourself included, to make a new manosphere, like like concertedly change the environment, and even bring some of these guys who have gone over to this? I'm not going to ask any questions about how hard it is for anybody else, because I make a shitload of money side. Um, are you Is there an appetite from you and other comedians to like form a real manosphere not that doesn't suck, and even bring them back?
I wish I could say yes to that, but I don't really see some like or maybe I'm just not invited to the hangouts, but but I've not seen like a real definitive like, hey, we kind of need an alternative to all this stuff that's going on and Austin and whatnot. But what you do see is you do see a lot of comedy shows that are very, very much geared towards different audiences who would maybe not connect with that sort of thing. But I see a lot of that being led by the LGBTQ community, by queer, non-binary people, by women, uh, and yeah, they're always everybody is welcome. I've always felt welcome in all those spaces 110% because like allies are welcome. But I don't see like a direct like alternative like manosphere like there's structure to it. Like there's different types of shows, like there's different types of political shows, there's different types of just like shows that are more focused on inclusivity and stuff like that. And I think that's all a good thing, but yeah, I don't think there's quite like the unification that there is over on the other side.
Well, I think maybe like touching on the capitalistic side too, is our side. Those of us who, I say our side, I think it's our side, is those of us who think humanity is not for debate, and that like people deserve fundamental and just basic rights and freedoms, and we shouldn't be assholes to each other, also have this looming idea that the capitalistic system itself is part of the problem, and like is a broken mechanism that harms us. And this pursuit of unrelenting wealth is not within our like need for living. You seem to talk about capitalism a lot and its failures, and it's just, do you see that as maybe a how do you see that in terms of like capitalism not being as much of a part of it, but in our society capitalism is a huge deal. Like, it's how we function and make a living. Like, you even said it a little bit, was I could go and just make a right-wing podcast and say I left the left and not actually mean any of it, but you could fall into a huge like influx of money.
Yeah, I mean, so could you, Nick. By the way, well, like
Oh,
I'm not.
I
I mean,
absolutely
I mean,
could.
I mean, just so you know, like, yeah.
I have a cowboy hat behind me that I, as my wife says, I walk out of my house sometimes and I look Republican, and but I'm not like in any way. Like, I'm a
I
pro-human person.
You do not
Um,
look Republican. I think even with a cowboy hat, I would not be. Yeah, I don't think I'd
Not
be
with
like
this shirt
Republican
on.
with. Yeah,
Like,
well, yeah, that's true. That's true.
this
Yeah,
shirt gives it away.
yeah, yeah. The beard doesn't give off like Republican vibe beard. Like it gives off artist beard.
Oh, okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I try and not look the I try and not look too much. I live in Arkansas,
No,
so
I mean,
like,
I meant it in a good way. Like it's a creative beard.
no, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
It makes me a little more distinguished.
yeah, yeah.
But
Like this guy can edit my movie beard. You know.
I
So
actually could. I did audio and sound
see,
engineering when I was in college. Like
see.
I recorded all of the operas and the orchestra concerts at Carnegie Mellon. So
Oh,
I
brilliant.
got and like and uh, audition tapes and stuff for individuals. So I got to experience all of that. So yeah, I actually could do that. I'm that weird creative that could record your video and edit it for you at the end.
Right.
I asked some of these questions though around the manosphere because like I feel like we need a concerted effort. Like they have a
I agree.
pipeline to being either a manosphere comedian or like looks maxing and all this stupid shit that they do. Like there are concerted pipelines for these people to be for kids to be indoctrinated in my eyes and like and lied to. How do
What?
you how do you see like what you're doing? Like, do you see what you're doing as being a part of creating an alternative pipeline to like actually showing young men that you can make comedy and not be a complete douche about it? Or like you can be successful and it doesn't look like owning a Maserati and having this giant ass mansion, but it's going to the bookstore as a comedian and like having a fun coffee or shit like do you see like what you're doing being able to help create a new pipeline towards breaking because I
I hope
masculinity is
so.
at such a weird state right now. Like we're
Yeah.
trying to claim it in a way that doesn't suck moving forward. I have a water bottle that just says just suck less. Like that's a big phrase we
Yeah.
talk about here. Is like what are you like how do you see yourself influencing maybe the younger generation to
I
be confident to do what you're doing so we don't fall into fascism forever.
Sure. I mean, I guess I'd like to think I'm doing that. I mean, I just try to be a decent person, and I try to, as far as like comedy goes, I really do love stand up. Like I just love the craft so much. And I've just always, even though, I have branched off into other creative things and stand up is just one of the things I do when it used to be the only thing. I mean, I used to be a road comic where I was like, touring 45 weeks a year. My life is different now, but stand up's still a huge part of it. And, I love going and still, going to being involved in the local comedy scene as much as I can, which in Los Angeles, there's basically just 100 different micro scenes, because it's huge. But yeah, so I try to embrace all of that. I try to, I never want to come off as like the cynical old guy, you know what I mean? Like, cause you see that a lot. And I've, even when I was starting out, I was just like, I never want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that's like just the cool mentor type that everybody like wants to talk to, and they're just super chill, and they're not like just this like black pilled nihilist. I find nihilism to be extremely lazy. That's a different conversation for a different day. But yeah. So, and I'd like to think that I do that. I mean, I always try to be like accessible to any newer comic who would want to talk to me. I'm always available. I've always tried to help out anybody. I mean, I guess it's been helping a little bit. I mean, I remember one time a couple years ago. Well, actually, it was almost a decade ago at this point. But somebody came up to me at a college conference, and we were both showcasing at this college conference. Um, and he came up to me and he goes, "Dude, I'm here because of you." And I was like, "Well, no, you're here because you're funny, but thank you for saying that." And he's like, "Yeah, but I'll never forget what you said to me." And then he told me this thing that I said to him, and I didn't even remember saying it. But I was like, so I was just like, "Dude, that's so awesome." Um, So yeah, I mean, stuff like that I think is important, and I try to do that the best that I can. I think a lot of comics do, and I try to be, I just try to do that. As far as you brought up capitalism, and that I talk about it a lot. I mean, I think capitalism is really at the root of all of these ills. It's like, well, why do we have the patriarchy? Well, because a lot of men don't want to share the place at the top. Like they don't want to do that. Why do we have a lot of the injustice in the world? A lot of it has to do with capitalism. The police are the brutal force that they are because they want to uphold society for the rich and the powerful. Same with ICE, and ICE is an even more brutal version of it. So I think that capitalism, why do we have a war economy? Well, because of Wall Street. Why is that? Well, because of capitalism. If capitalism was a car, it would break down every 2,000 miles. It's a completely inefficient way to run a society. It's a completely destructive economic model. It is unnatural. It is the opposite of what it means to be human, because we crawled out of the trees, or crawled down from the trees a long time ago, and decided we're better off cooperating than going at it alone. Capitalism is the opposite of all that. And there is I mean, all these little bullshit, polishing adjectives. Well, no, it's not. It's cronyism. That's the problem. No, it's capitalism. It's just capitalism. It leads to all of that 100% of the time, because that is what it's designed to do. You cannot do not sugarcoat capitalism. There's no reason to, because it does the exact same thing every single time it's ever been tried throughout human history. And really, in the big scheme of things, it hasn't even been around that long. But why is it still so prominent? Well, because the people who it benefits, the elite few who it benefits, they really, really wanted to hold on to it. Will we see the end of capitalism in my lifetime? I don't know, but I'm sure as hell going to try. There was a time where they thought they'd never be over the power of kings, but guess what? It freaking happened. So I think that as a species, we can overcome capitalism. Will I see that in my lifetime? Maybe, maybe not. But I'm sure as hell going to try. To quote Ramsey Kinane of PM Press, at the end of the day, we're either going to fight for a better world or we're not. And that first option, or the second option, the not option, sounds kind of defeatist and, quite frankly, really fucking boring. So yeah, I'm gonna try.
Yeah, it's a pretty nihilistic view. Is the not is
Sure.
well, it doesn't matter. Why do it?
Yeah.
Because nihilism and nihilism, like, does it really matter? Nobody cares.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter in the end. I think we'd have a fun conversation on nihilism, and that would be an interesting,
Let's do
separate
it.
discussion.
Let's do
We
it in the
should definitely
future.
do it.
Yeah, I'm down.
Because my point with this series, my point with other shows that I do, I'd have a show called the Diogenes Club that's after this, which we try and be comedic, but we started it on our friend had an issue and he needed support. And instead of doing it privately like we would have done anyway, we just said, let's do this all together on a live and support each other and work our way through these processes. And getting to talk to you today has reminded me that we need to continue building that effort concertedly, like, because there is no pipeline to uh like a real manosphere, like an inclusive manosphere, a sphere that doesn't suck and isn't the black pilled nihilism and whatever bullshit of the groypers and that end of the world. Like, where it's an easy to me, it's an easy transition. Like, you just accept responsibility and accountability. Like, we've come to this conclusion that intelligent masculinity, anyways, or but better humaning in general, is the refusal to outsource accountability onto others and the discipline to live with the consequences of your actions and values. And you seem to be a great example of that, in terms of, especially with what you're doing with your professional life, is you're using your position to do good because that's who you are, not because it's a front for you, and you've already admitted quite openly you could make a lot more money. I could make a lot more money. Many of us could make a lot of money just talking nonsense and bullshit on the right.
You
But
know
it's
what? You mentioned your. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just you
no, no,
mentioned
no. Go
something.
ahead, go ahead.
You mentioned something your wife said, and so there's a funny sentiment that I always I like to share, and it's actually something that my wife said. One time I was just I saw something online, and I just kind of said just as like a goofy aside, like I was just trying to be funny, but I was just like, man, do you ever? I said to my wife, I go, do you ever wonder how much money we could make if I just kind of like sold out and started writing like Fox News style comedy and went out to New York? And she goes, no, I don't wonder that. One, because you would never do that. And two, because if for some crazy reason you did, you'd be making that trip alone. I was
Yeah,
like, yeah, I wasn't being serious, but great answer.
that's a great way to say we're never fucking doing that. Yeah, no, I like what I I want to get to the heart. I wish we could get to the heart of it. We'll have to talk more because we've been going for just about the hour and we haven't even gotten to the lightning round of questions
Yeah, you
yet, which
didn't
we are
ask me any
going to get to.
questions.
I didn't because we half the time we don't actually get to the interview questions
That's
because
okay.
and I have to invite people back for a second time because I want to get to most of them. There's some really good, I think, really solid questions in here.
I wrote a 1,000-word essay for each one. No, I'm just kidding.
Darn it, darn
That'd
it.
be funny. Like
See,
I wrote
now
this
we're
is
gonna
my
have to just put out rage material for you, for everybody on like this could have happened. We could have had a real conversation today. Um, oh man. Um, I do want to get to the lightning round questions because we've been fairly whimsical throughout and fairly unserious at points throughout the whole thing. But I know I've learned a lot through this entire conversation, and I really want to have you back because my effort, in a lot of ways, I've had a concerted effort. I've had to put it on pause for a little bit while we're working on disability rights because fuck Stephen Miller for trying to take away disability rights. Like, go fuck yourself, dude. You're a piece of shit. Like,
Oh,
I hope my legacy is tearing your legacy down and you get to see it all torn down and you have to live with the fact that you failed at everything you ever did. Like that would be a great legacy. Just saying.
yeah.
Fuck you, Stephen.
Well, and what we've done to the disabled community over the past 6 years or so, I think it's just so evil and just I mean we basically the collective we as a society, especially in the United States, have just said we don't give two fucks if you have a quality of life or not. We don't give two fucks about like there's a virus going around that could really debilitate you. We don't care. And it's just I mean it's been so I mean my it breaks my heart really and I feel so sorry for just the world but just especially friends of mine who are just disabled or immunocompromised and stuff. I feel mortified by the world that we have built over the past handful of years and I can only hope we start going in a different direction. But when a eugenicist is in charge of public health, and I do believe RFK is a eugenicist because words have definitions.
Yeah, words
When
mean things.
yeah,
I love that saying.
when that is the case, I mean it's really hard not to feel defeated and frustrated. But it's like we got to fight back against this shit. We just have to.
Well, before we shift to those final questions, though, then I guess I guess I would have a challenge for you.
Okay.
And I've never done this, so I'm gonna challenge you to, if you can, is to work in disability visibility for things like what's going on. Stephen Miller and the DOJ, I don't know if you know about it, is on the 18th of June, they released a DOJ memo attacking the 1999 Olmstead decision, which is directly attacking disability rights. So it ended the practice of forced state level and territory level institutionalization, and it enabled in-home and least restrictive care. And those rights are directly under assault right now. And I would challenge you to find a way to work that in the eugenicist side, and that if you're not already doing it, to bring this to light in a different way, from a very different angle, through comedy. Because I think you touched on it earlier, is people in the audience aren't always there for you. You might be just a single act on a show, but what you say may resonate with them if it's through comedy. If they hear about the assaults on disability rights and the Olmstead memo and Stephen Miller through comedy, maybe they'd be willing to listen to it. If they hear about what RFK and his eugenicism is doing, maybe they'd be willing to listen about it.
Oh, I do talk about him in the show.
Okay.
I do, well, because I actually, Nick, if you don't mind my saying so, I think I do an okay impression of the guy. So I do bring the impression of him into the show and talk about RFK. And there is a very serious component, because I believe he's a very, very dangerous eugenicist, but he also does tons of wacky shit, like cutting a dick off of a dead raccoon for no fucking reason, and swimming in a shit creek with his grandson. So, it's easy to kind of take that fodder and then kind of reframe it with a deeper point of view that, hey, this guy's really fucking dangerous. So I do try to do that.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, good. So I guess you already win the challenge.
Well, no, I'll try to think of some other ways too. I'll try to think of some other ones.
No, I'm good. I'm glad you meet that challenge that way. Like, I think it's great that you get to do that on a large stage too.
Well, it's fun. I asked a friend of mine, a UK comic. I was just like, hey man, for the Fringe, how good do you think international audiences are going to be with RFK? Because you do have to be mindful of that stuff if they don't know what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
he goes, dude, I think 50-50 on RFK. And I think, given that your show is a political comedy show, from an American, probably most of your audience is going to know, like they're going to come knowing who he is. So I think I'm gonna keep the RFK material, especially since I decided it'll be really funny for anyone in the audience who doesn't know who RFK is. They will spend at least a little bit of the show wondering if I'm making the guy up, because he's just so out. Like, when you think about how fucking nuts he is, like, they will be like, oh, I think he's being satirical, like he's being hyperbolic, like this is symbolic. This person's not actually real. They didn't really put a guy who gave himself a brainworm and swims in a shit creek in charge of human health. Like, oh yes, they did.
Oh yes, they did.
Yep.
Yes, we did. It's as dumb and as fucked up as we think it is, and as they can imagine. Like, it is.
We can't trust produce anymore. We can't trust produce anymore.
No.
because they defunded all of the agencies that looked for those parasites. So all the monitoring of those parasites are gone now. And guess what? We got them. Took about a year.
Make America healthy again, right?
Yeah, make America healthy again by not. I guess now he's making it so that, he wants everyone to just eat steak. I guess that's exclusively what he wants. Like, now you can't eat vegetables. So.
But the price of beef is going to go through the roof, because
right.
We're at war with Iran, and the Strait of Hormuz is where 50% of the world's fertilizer comes from. So we don't need fertilizer so that our markets can actually produce corn and things like that for the beef to grow. But who gives a shit about that? RFK.
Yeah, well, he'll tell you to buy liver. He's such a freaking moron. Like that guy. I think Stephen Miller is. They're all ridiculously dangerous, but I think what RFK has done to public health, I don't know if we'll ever bounce back from. And I hope I'm wrong. I sincerely hope I'm wrong. And we got to fight like hell to make sure we do bounce back from it. But I think he has set us back generations. It will take generations to catch up to what he's done.
Yeah, I agree. There's generational damage, and at the end of it, assuming we're actually able to take back the reins of control and move forward and put in people who are willing to make real change and real fixes, is we could actually re-envision this to be a better system. Now that if they've broken it, we may as well re-envision it to be better so that it's not broken a second time, because we have that chance. The Constitution can be amended. We can make new laws. We can finally get rid of old laws. Like, we can do things right here. I thought I heard a cat move around a couple times.
Yeah, here, hold on. I think she knocked the mic cord out though, so
You're still sounding all right.
All right, cool. I'm back. Yeah.
So let's get to, we're just a little over time here, and I want to get to these last couple questions. This last question for you, because I told you I would, and everybody knows we always get to these ones. Is at the end of the show, I always like to ask 4 rapid fire questions. There is no wrong answer to these. They're based on the Mulan's theme song, "I'll Make a Man Out of You." I was in choir in high school and college and men's choir, and we sang this a lot when I was in high school. And it's just a fun song. And the movie's great too. Like, the movie's great.
Movie.
And the song has always stuck with me. And so now I get to ask questions about its chorus line. And so here we go. 4 quick, this is the only interview questions we're asking today, is first off, and again, no wrong answer for any of these, whatever comes to mind. First question: what does it mean to you to be as swift as a coursing river?
It means to be definitive, to make choices, to think decisively. Well, I didn't think so decisively there, did I? Because that was a pretty lame arrangement of words. But yeah, to kind of like think quickly, to be mindful, to be consistent, and to keep moving forward, to always be in motion. And by the way, always being in motion also does involve the appropriate times of rest.
That's fair. I like it. That's a great answer. Next, how do you embody the force of a great typhoon?
Always being curious, always being active, always being creative, and always challenging myself and the society around me.
Love it. Similar question, but different. How are you as strong as a raging fire?
Looking at the news each morning. That really helps the raging fire part.
It stokes a lot.
But yeah, no, being steadfast, pushing for being the absolute best I can be. You know, I'm not necessarily trying to be the quote unquote best comic in the world, because what does that even mean? That can't be defined. But what I can do is to be the best Ron Placone I can possibly be, because you know, I'm the only one. So so it's my lane, and I want to make it as strong as I possibly can.
I like it. I like that. Finally, how are you as mysterious as the dark side of the moon?
You know, I embrace my 10% meathead. You know, I'm the type of guy who can talk philosophy and can talk capitalism and can talk you know, anti-fascism, but I also like to just unwind sometimes and watch a soccer game or a hockey game. And you know, and I'm also a big music guy, and I can appreciate everything from the complexity of Steely Dan's Deacon Blues, which is one of my favorite songs in the whole freaking world, to the simplicity of one guy and a guitar doing 3-chord anti-folk with some really, really depthful lyrics that really move me. I can appreciate it all. So I feel like, you know, having that well-roundedness kind of just bleeds into the mystique, where you're just like, oh, wow, that's a deep cut. That's really cool. I try to be that guy.
I like that. That's a really good answer. Thank you for that. And finally, where can people find you and help support your work, assuming the screen decides? There we go.
All right. That's an easy one. Yeah. So ronplacone.com is my website. that has everything. For anyone in Los Angeles, we're doing an anti-fascist pasta party on July 25th. It's a house show. We're going to have comedy, music, and yes, food, and it's free. So email me if you're interested in attending that. For everyone in Edinburgh, Scotland, I'll be part of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, August 6th through 30th. You can find information at ronplacone.com. My show's at 3:45 each day, and I'm part of the free Fringe, so you just got to show up. My movie Left at Wall is out now. You can watch it on Tubi. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it a bunch of other places too, but I recommend Tubi or YouTube because it's free there. Just type in Left at Wall. It will come up. Please do watch it. There's a contest going on right now where you can answer some trivia questions. And if you email me your answers, you'll be in a drawing for a free t-shirt. So you can watch a free movie and also get a free t-shirt potentially. So win-win all around. And yeah, Ron Placone on YouTube. Please do subscribe to my Substack. My Substack is a little newer for me. I've had a Substack for a long time, but it would be one of those things I would just like write an essay like once a year or whenever I thought. Now I'm writing a lot more. So I'm publishing something every day on Substack, every weekday, just about. So at least 3 to 4 times a week on the weekdays. So please do subscribe to my Substack, Ron Placone on Substack. And then I'm a Ron Placone on all the other socials too. Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter. I'm on all of them, Ron Placone. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with me, Ron. This was really fun. And I'm really glad that our friend Tara Devlin, if you are on Substack or anywhere else, go find our friend Tara Devlin at Tarabuster. She is the one who introduced the two of us. And I'm really thankful for her for doing that.
Too.
I've had a really wonderful morning so far today. And I look forward to being able to talk with you again here soon. Like, I'd love to continue this type of discussion, get back into some of these other topic areas, maybe have you on for a Diogenes Club at some point.
I don't know if that's like, but I actually have done a lot of work on Diogenes. When I was in grad school, I did a lot on Diogenes. So I have a rounded point of view on Diogenes. I don't know how much of that show touches on the philosopher himself. But yeah.
A little bit. I want to touch more on the philosopher himself, because that was sort of where I got to on the with the show in the beginning, was where are the men, and challenging each other, and asking ourselves to be better.
I would be down for that conversation, because I think a lot of Diogenes, I think sometimes people misunderstand him, and I think often there's things about him that people don't know, especially if you want to bring masculinity into it. So yeah, I would definitely be down for that conversation if you ever wanted to have it. That'd be fun.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be in touch about that. We do those on Thursdays here, actually in about 20 minutes. So if you ever have time for it, we're gonna get you on. It's myself, Dr. Eric Lulov, and a fellow veteran, Evan Fields, and we just have a good time and talk various topics. And so
I'd love
to have you on there.
Sometime. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. So thanks everyone for being here with us. Thanks to y'all for joining our show today. I'm Nick Paro, not your dad, here on Sick of This Shit Publications with Ron Placone. And we're just telling y'all, just suck less for a little while. Just suck less and go have a great day. Go be fun. Go do something great, because we're done being sick of this shit here. And now we're doing this shit. Thanks, y'all. Have a great day. Thanks, Ron. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.